Hello everyone, welcome to today's seminar. Today we're going to be covering some feedback from last week's seminar on Of Course I Can by Dick Williams, and then we're going to be moving on to briefly discussing Freida Khalo in preparation for your seminar work this week. So, the feedback from last week, I was really impressed with the way that some people explored this image. It was a very different image to ones that we've looked at in the past, as it was far more simple. One thing that I did notice, and I totally understand that life's getting in the way a lot at the moment, but quite a few of you missed your seminar submission this week. That's absolutely fine. Of course, I can't give you your mark if you don't submit your work, but I don't mind if you have to miss a week because things are happening, you're having to move home, and things are getting more stressful. So my feedback this week isn't going to be as in-depth as last week. Those of you who submitted on time will get personalised feedback as well. But I'm not going to be able to give as much feedback this week because I have only had a few submissions. So here are a few of my favourite analyses of the image. Same as last week, I'm going to give you a few different examples of people's personal responses to the Of Course I Can image. Now this is because I want you to see how other people are interpreting images the same that you would if you were in seminar with everyone. So the first is the reassurance of the quote, "Of course I can," is contradicting to her frantic and desperate expression. Now this is very interesting because you have the words at the top, which is a reassuring and confident statement. However, this student has responded to the image that the character in the image is frightened, she's frantic, she's desperate. Quite a few of you actually had this same response. Quite a few of you thought that this woman was panicking, and this is because of her wide-eyed and frantic expression. Now, one thing that I would say, this is very different to my own interpretation of the image. Now, this is because I felt that she was frantic because of the change in circumstance, but still feeling confident about her ability to ration. Now, some of you actually misinterpreted a part of this image. So the woman is grabbing cans or jars of preserved food, and some of you thought this was hoarding behaviour. However, the implication in the image is basically what people were doing at the time, which was preserving and canning their own food. So rather than hoarding food from shops, she's actually taken that food and made it into a preservable format so she could store it. So this is a slight misinterpretation of the image, but that's totally fine. The image speaks to you, however it speaks to you, you are not examining this image in the time that it was designed to be examined. So a lot of you thought that it was a contradicting image, that it was a panicked image. She probably is panicking, obviously there's a war going on, but she actually is more capable than a few of you assumed, but that's totally fine. The second is that it can be assumed the actual intent of the poster is to make those who are hoarding feel guilty because they are not being patriotic enough. Now, I believe that the student that wrote this meant that they thought that the individual was hoarding. As I've just discussed, I don't actually think that was happening. I think that the individual was storing their own food. However, I do agree with the student in that the intent of the poster is to make people feel that hoarding behaviours and these panic buying behaviours are unpatriotic. Actually, what the poster's doing is showing people the correct behaviour and hoping that people will do that as well. Perhaps even the reason that the woman looks scared, looks frightened, is because the image is saying it's okay if you're scared, it's okay if this is a new and difficult time, but of course you can. You've got this, you're patriotic, you can and store your own food. And then we have an analysis of the word patriotic and why it's used in this image. So expressing devotion to and vigorous support for one's own country. So this means that women need to do their bit saving food and preserving it, otherwise they are not doing their bit to help the country. So this is great. So someone has taken an important word, identified an important word in the image and pulled that apart to understand the historical context and the meaning that this word should have on the audience. So regarding the strengths and improvement for last week's seminar work, I would say that your strengths as a whole, you explored the historical context of the image and used this to inform your analysis, which I thought was really fantastic. Often in this seminar series, we have explored the psyche of an artist, we've explored the history of an artist, but in this image it was more important to explore the historical context in which the image was created. And a lot of you did that very, very well and used this to help you yourself to understand the image. I also liked how a lot of you drew comparisons between how the image was perceived at the time and how the image could be perceived today. Of course, we're experiencing relatively similar hoarding and panic buying behaviours, and a lot of you did explore that and compare how the image might have been received then and how it could be received now. So I thought that was really good as well. You're looking at how historical context influences individuals' perception as well as the image creation, which is a great skill. Now, for improvement, I've put attempt deeper explorations into the latent content of the images. This week, I saw you draw back into yourselves a little bit, and I didn't see as much in-depth analysis of the image. Now, this could be because the image was more simple, or it could be because you are experiencing a lot of stress and anxiety and uncertainty at home, and you're simply not in the place to do an in-depth analysis. Now, that's totally fine. I know that you're capable of it, so I would like to see that next week, now that hopefully things have calmed down and you've settled into this new routine. Finally, the same as last week, one thing that I'd like you to look at trying to get into your work is reference pertinent psychological theory. Now, this is going to be really important for your essays to try and get you those top marks, to find where in an image or in an artist's history, background, or the creation of an image, psychological theory could influence the artist or can be seen in the image. Now, I'll give you some examples of that for this week, or I'm hoping that you will find examples of that for this week, and that's why I've chosen such an influential and interesting artist. So this week we're looking at the art of Freida Kahlo. Now, again, I'm not going to give too much away because I'd like you to explore the history of Freida Kahlo, the history at the time, and how this influenced her work. I will tell you that I've chosen Freida because she's a fantastically interesting artist. She had a very interesting life. She was very famous at the time as well, which hasn't been particularly common for artists. She had a very tragic life, which was typified by pain, by illness, by heartbreak, and we can see a lot of that in her work. So I'd really like you to look into the historical context of the creation of Freida Kahlo's pieces. Look into her life, read a bit about her life story, and see where that is reflected in her paintings. I've chosen 3 paintings for you to explore, where I really hope that you manage to find some psychological theory and use that in your analysis. So I'd also like you to, of course, select one of the 3 images that I'm giving you, analyze this image, and then, of course, consider some relevant theory. So these are the images that I'd like you to look into. The first is the broken column. The second is the wounded deer. And the third is the 2 Freidas. Now, I only want you to choose one. Please make it clear which one you've chosen in your analysis. And please submit that to me by by the end of the day on Sunday. I hope that you enjoy your Peaky Blinders lecture this week. Please make sure that you complete that work as well. That work will hopefully enter you, if you submit it to me, into a prize draw to win a £10 Amazon voucher. So I hope you have a fantastic week, or as best a week as you can, and I will see you after the Easter holidays. Bye guys.